Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us for our webinar, Choose Your Own DevOps with ElectricFlow Winter 19 release. Next slide. I'm Sam Fell, and I'm joined by our Director of Technical Marketing, Hans Oshlock. Say hello, Hans.
Hello, everybody.
And we're going to be talking to you today about our latest release of the product. We've got some pretty exciting features that you've probably read a little bit about. We're going to walk through them, answer some questions that we think that people have based on some of the input we've gotten already. If you have questions, we can answer those questions live as well. We have people sitting by waiting for those. So we'll make this sort of, a two-way conversation. I'm going to start off with some non-product news, then we're going to talk about what's new in Winter 19 edition, and then we're going to go back and forth between that and some live demonstration. So before we get into the Winter 19, let's go to the next slide. We'll do a couple of the non-product news updates. For those of you that didn't see this last October, Gartner and Forrester are two industry analysts that take a lot of time to look at the space that we play in, application release. Gartner calls it application release orchestration. Forrester calls it continuous delivery release automation. And we scored very well in both of those. In fact, we got the highest scores across all three personas and all three use cases. In another document by Gartner, the critical capabilities document, for folks like release managers or product owners or DevOps team members, who are doing things like pipeline and environment management or deployment automation or release orchestration. We were ranked the highest across all of those vectors. And you can see on the Forrester side, they talk a lot about our strengths for release packaging and modeling, moving releases and managing that pipeline, working across all those different third-party tools that the folks who are using our software are using. So we're really, really happy to have that recognized leadership along technical and process things, but we also are really focused in on the human element. So we want to make sure that the technology that's being introduced into these production operations centers, Kubernetes and functions as a service or serverless, AI ops, all these different technologies, containers, all these things are very exciting and they give the developers a lot of agility, but the operations team members, when they're receiving it, a lot of times they're not really sure exactly how to handle it, and you start to get some anxiety when you're releasing it into production. So in conjunction with a partner of ours, the DevOps Institute, we created ElectricFlow University. It's a subscription-based training and certification program that has lots of different types of content in it. There's some Electric Cloud specific content, but there's a lot of sort of foundational DevOps stuff, like how to do continuous integration, how to do continuous delivery, at a very meta level. We're working with some of our advisors, John Willis, Gary Groover, and others, to help bring this great curriculum to the people and the folks. These are the people who are most important to any DevOps transformation. It's the people, it's the culture, and of course, technology and tools and process. Those are all important as well, but the people is where it all starts. And that goes to the next slide, which is the work that we're doing, which will be announced on Monday. We're super excited about it, that we're doing with the DevOps Institute. We announced this back at our conference, DevOps Enterprise Summit, that we co-founded with Gene Kim many, many years ago. We announced this on stage last October. The Upskilling Enterprise DevOps Skills Report is a report that we fielded with an ex-industry analyst, Evelyn Orlick from Forrester. She was a vice president of research over at Forrester. And she and the DevOps Institute are putting together the survey to understand where the skill gaps are. So we talked a little bit about Kubernetes and serverless and all these different things. Well, where are the skills? What skills do hiring managers look for? So if you're trying to groom yourself for a DevOps job, what are hiring managers looking for? And if you're a hiring manager, what skills are out there and what would a sort of a quote-unquote DevOps engineer, what kind of skills would a DevOps engineer have? So we're really excited to see the results of that survey. We had 1,600 people respond to the survey, so it's a fantastic opportunity to really understand how the human element of DevOps is doing.
And we are all waiting for with bated breath to see what the numbers are.
Yes, well, it should be good. There's a webinar we're doing with Jane and Evelyn next week. So look for that as well and join, and you can find out and get a free copy of that report once it's published. All right, so let's move on. So we've talked a lot about sort of the fact that we're sort of the de facto standard in the industry for release orchestration. We've talked a little bit about our investment in sort of the humans of DevOps. And our last release that we did was, really sort of DevOps your way. We wanted to make it really easy for people to interact with our platform through whatever channel they wanted, whether it was our fantastic user interface or through our as code, DSL, all the object model that we have in our unified platform. Well, we got such a great response with the work that we did there that we doubled down on DevOps your way, and we're giving people an ability now to sort of choose their own DevOps. So let's dive into that. So what were we hearing? Well, we were hearing that we wanted us, that the folks that we were selling to and talking to, they were looking for a unified solution that was able to cater to multiple roles and display only what was relevant to them. We have a very powerful, flexible platform, which to the uninitiated seemed overwhelming, but to the power users, they appreciated the fact that it's a unified platform, the fact that it could scale across multiple teams, multiple parts of the organization without having to implement multiple different products and have to worry about ETL and stuff like that. So how can we get a single product that caters to all these roles but makes it easier for them to onboard so they're not overwhelmed seeing things about deployments when really all they cared about was managing releases? We also heard that folks who were part of the process of approving things or doing whatever they needed to do didn't want to have to key in their credentials every time they did it for approving or rejecting things. They wanted to be able to set up automatic triggers for more different types of activities that triggered pipelines. And they wanted to be able to make sure that the tools that they were already using were able to be incorporated in these different pipelines and different release processes without having to have them make changes to their current process. So that's what this release is really all about.
Yeah, I mean, it's about getting to what you need to get done as fast as possible, right? I mean, there's sort of a common theme here, and we'll look more at a lot of it.
Exactly. And so what we're delivering in Winter 19 edition, persona-based views, something called MyWork, which is fun and I think pretty interesting for folks who are constantly using the tool, enhanced release and pipeline triggers, improved single sign-on support, and release status past and present. So let's dive into those. So the first one here, because we have this very powerful unified platform, because we have a security model that regardless of the mode or channel that you're interacting with our product in, that channel, that security is in effect. All the access control is being managed, whether you're coming at it through the command line or through the user interface or through our DSL. The credentials are being checked, and you only have access to the objects and the pipelines and the environments and the objects that are all defined as objects in the ElectricFlow unified system. You only have access to the things that you are entitled to. And what we've done with the user interface is we've made it so that now it's much easier for an administrator to say, okay, for these groups of people who are really maybe in Active Directory or an LDAP, because of course we connect right into that and we can use all those groups for ACLs. You don't have to create a whole nother set of ACLs separate from your organization's sort of Active Directory or directory structure. So if people are in the project management or release or sort of PMO or release group in your team, they would be able to get a specific set of user interface queues that are set up based on however you wanted to configure it, so that they would only see the things that was relevant to them, and they wouldn't be burdened by looking at environment models that they didn't care about or application models that they didn't care about or were confused by. And so this is based on a lot of the feedback that we were getting from our customers. Like, I love the power of the platform. I love the fact that the abstraction gives me this flexibility later on, but it feels very overwhelming to some of my newer users. So we fixed that. We're making it much easier for folks to get real-time access to the info that they care about. And again, that unified platform that it encompasses all the DevOps use cases means that those release managers are working with actual data and actual information that's being input by the DevOps team members, the product owners, and not some other system, again, that there needs to be some exchange, extract, transform, load process to make sure that all those systems are in tune. Any comments on that, Hans?
Yeah, well, I mean, we've had this, the separation of, controls and security and role-based access control. That's all part of the platform, and that piece is, critical to, running pipelines and releases and giving people the right access to gates and approvals and permissions and stuff. So this is just another step of sort of taking that level of permissions, and what we've done is we've created another sort of object in the system. We have users and groups, but we have personas. And so different users and groups now can be assigned to a specific kind of persona, which really targets use cases. And so the product ships out of the box with some standard personas, but our users are going to customize those to meet the needs of the different end users that are using the product. But those users might be like DevOps engineers, release managers, QA technician, IT ops. All those people need to interact with the product in a different way, and to get value as fast as possible. It's about, okay, as an IT ops person, when I jump into the system, how do I get to the, the infrastructure-y stuff as fast as possible? If I'm a test or developer, I want to get access to some different stuff. Maybe I want to get access to the SelfService Catalog for spinning up an environment or something like that. So it's really just another layer. It's taking all the good stuff that's in there and really bringing it out, and helping teams organize and just get rid of any noise that might be there.
Exactly. And I think that's critical, right? Is that the ACLs you talked about, we've had them in there forever. But before, if you had a development manager or a QA person who wasn't allowed to look at an environment, they would still, they'd be able to see it in the UI somewhere. They'd say, okay, there's an environments tab, but they just wouldn't be able to do anything once they got in there. So instead of having a sort of a road to nowhere, a cul-de-sac on the evolutionary chain of UI-ness.
The DevOps cul-de-sac. That's a good
right.
one.
Yeah. So we're just saying, you know what, let's just make it really simple for people, and let's just take that out of there. So that's what we've done with the persona-based views.
So you want to jump in and see this in action and take a look at this stuff?
I would love that. You can do that. Great.
So I'm logged in. That's me. And
Hi,
my favorite place to go is the self-service catalog. I have access to everything. I'm sort of a general persona. If you don't assign someone to a persona, then you get to see everything. But you'll see now when users interact with the tool and they are navigating to figure out where they need to go, the menu structure is now oriented around the different main groups of responsibilities and tasks that different DevOps teams and organizations need to get done. So release orchestration, right? Building pipelines, looking at and releases, and looking at running pipelines, deployment automation, modeling applications, deployments, mapping environments, applications to environments, all that stuff. And then all the analytics, DevOps essentials, just all the, a lot of the back end stuff for building out all the intelligence, and of course administration. And the menu is customizable, but access to our, we want to make DevOps as code, and taking a code native approach, something that we want to expose as much as possible. So our DSL editor is available from right here as well. So this is this is kind of everything. And the menus up on top as well can be adjusted. And this is a new one here, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So to give you a sense of what this is like, I'll log out and let's log in as someone else. We'll log in as our friend Raj, and Raj is a release manager. So the first thing we see is when Raj logs in, he goes to the list of releases that are running right now, because his job is to, understand the status and progress of releases. Essentially, he needs to get immediate visibility into how value is moving through the DevOps pipeline, right? So his homepage is a different homepage than my homepage. I like to go to the SelfService Catalog and do stuff there. Raj jumps in and he can see right here, boom, I've got some releases that have some pending tasks here. Looks like there's some issues with our online banking release. There was a failure. Maybe that's something I need to go look at. This is where he likes to jump to, right? The other thing here that every user can customize.
Hey Hans, can you hit the hamburger menu there and show the different? There you go. Right, so it's different.
So then the other thing, and this is for every user. We can customize, what they have access to, right? So the release manager is going to see less of the deployment automation stuff, right? They don't care as much about that. But they do care about some of the release orchestration stuff, maybe some of the visibility, that sort of thing.
And all the information that they're seeing is the same information that's being fed by the deployment automation work. It's being informed by the models that are being created by other parts of the team. Because it's all part of that unified platform, the knowledge is there. The ability for us to do analytics and stuff on that knowledge is all in that one platform, and it's not dispersed over multiple different tools.
Yeah, I mean that's the great thing, right? There's not that we're just filtering stuff out that you don't want to see, and the power of the unified product is there. Everything is still happening. You're not losing anything by jumping into a different persona at all. All the data's there, all the functionality's there. You're just not bothered with stuff that you don't want to be bothered with. As an extreme example, let's look at someone like Ivan, who's an IT ops person. When they jump in, he's taken directly to a dashboard that gives, that's a little bit more infrastructure deployment oriented, right? And his visibility is, far less than, others. So there's very limited things that Ivan can do here. He can, look at some of the resources that are running up on the cloud or in their data center, because that's stuff that he cares about, defining dynamic environments, that sort of thing. So, all of that totally customizable and very powerful. I'll show one last one here. Dana DevOps is a good example of someone that might want a little bit of a mix of stuff. So Dana jumps in and, she is, wants to keep track of, the progress of releases and deployments and stuff over time. But she has access to, more stuff than some of those other folks do on the deployment side, a little bit of release orchestration. So it's just totally tailored to what each persona and what every user is really looking for.
Well, that looks great. Thanks, Hans.
So that's personas, and I think it's one of those things that's like, it's very simple, but once you start playing around with it, it's it becomes really, really powerful and really useful.
Oh yeah, very enabling. I love it. All right, making it easier for the humans. You got to make sure the humans stay in the loop on this stuff.
That's
awesome.
right.
All right, next.
Oh, we've got some. Look at that. Okay, there's some animation there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next one's MyWork. Yeah, which is related to the personas. So you can walk through this a little bit.
Cover that one.
Yeah. So MyWork is it just sort of continues the theme of getting rid of the noise, and helping end users get access to, the work that needs to be done. Because if you, at the end of the day, value stream mapping, agility, dev, all this stuff, it is the flow and movement of work through the system that is what's delivering value to the customer, right? That's what DevOps really at its core is about, and releasing software faster. So being able to jump into a view that gives you quick access to any tasks that you're responsible for, or that you have permissions to take action on, is going to be the MyWork area. So you jump in, you can see any approvals, tasks, anything that is waiting on you that you can take action on is going to be listed right there. And then on the left is all your favorites, so you get quick access to all your bookmark places that you want to jump off to. If you're a release manager is a good example, right? If you're a release manager that's in the middle of a number of releases, or you want to be able to bookmark some of those releases and the release status, so that during the next month or so, or week or whatever, you've got a nice dashboard that's going to give you immediate access to drilling down into the progress of a release, or jumping over to a specific dashboard that you commonly need access to, that sort of thing. So that's what the MyWork is really all about. So we can look at that really quick, and let you want to comment on anything there, Sam.
Go for it. I'm excited to see it.
So let's see. We're Dana DevOps, and let's jump out and be Raj Release Manager here, because I think he is responsible for a little bit more stuff overall. But we've got a number of releases in progress right now. Again, I noted that there's some activity happening that Raj can see here. This is his home screen. But if he jumps over to MyWork, he's got it set up. He's got a few links to some important releases that he cares about. For example, he really likes to be able to jump over to the release list, right? Any running pipelines, the specific main release that he is really responsible for right now.
So I see that little star there. Does that mean that's one of my favorites?
That's right. So this is a favorited page, and it's easy if I want to jump over to the SelfService Catalog and make that one of my favorites.
Nice.
Very simple. So just star stuff, and then it'll show up there. So it's dynamic. You can unfavorite things anytime you want. So unfavorite that guy, and then jump back there. So
and this will be where I would go, whether I'm logging in on this browser, or if I'm on my mobile phone and I've got to do an approval, or if I'm on my tablet and I need to do it. It's all based on my username, not on my bookmarks on my device, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's going to take you right to home, and you can actually, slide that favorites piece over. So, if you just want the page to be, okay, here's the stuff that I need to address like right now.
Nice.
I've got some QA verification stage that needs addressed. Maybe I need to go ping the QA team, or looks like there's a compliance check happening in one of the releases. So all this stuff, you can Raj can approve this stuff right here, right? These gates, he can approve or reject, or he can jump into the pipeline or the release that's running and actually drill down and get a closer look at what's going on. So that's MyWork. It's great. It provides a very powerful way to ensure that the whole team is, the stuff that is important to every person is really bubbled up to the top. And we've talked a little bit about how do tools help culture, right? In terms of moving the needle on culture and processes and all of that. And this is a great example of that, right? I mean, MyWork it's a very simple concept, but it ensures that, every day, folks that are interacting that have different responsibilities, are focused on what's important. They're going to continue to see this stuff pop up. So
it makes it visible to people, which is very important. Part of that whole collaboration thing is making sure people understand when when there's something for them to do. If they don't know that they're supposed to be doing something, then it's really hard to fault them for not getting it done. But this makes it really, really easy for people to say, oh, I have to approve this thing. Okay, let me go and figure that out, or I need to find an environment for this release, or I got to do whatever. So another very powerful way to just make sure, because there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of things that the humans need to pay attention to. So this, again, just helps them to focus in on the things that are going to move the needle for the whole organization.
Yeah, and I've got 3 tasks here. I imagine, a release manager at a large enterprise it may be, attached to a lot of different things. And so there's, you can search through your tasks here. You can filter on different types of tasks. Is it a, entry gate, exit gate? Is it a step in a pipeline stage? You can filter down on the projects that matter to you. And of course, and we talked about this in the last release announcement, you can apply tags here as well. So other ways to, again, just keep filtering down and get access to what's important. So that's MyWork. I think the personas together with the MyWork really is going to transform how end users are able to get work done and interact with the product and be more efficient in building release pipelines and orchestrating releases across their organization.
Yep, and getting visibility into it and having everybody be on the same page from a single source of truth instead of having multiple different tools that you need to, like a patchwork stuff that you need to splice together. Awesome. Exactly. All right, let's go to the next. All right, enhanced pipeline and release triggers. So we've always had release triggers. What's different now, Hans?
It's a lot easier to set up, and there's some key integrations like GitHub that make it much nicer. So again, this is just greasing the skids for integrating with other tools that are part of your overall, DevOps process and tool chain. And one of the keys now is that there's much better support for just general purpose webhooks. So any tool really that supports the webhook callback can be used as a trigger to trigger a pipeline or a release or some orchestration task. Anything can be. Yep, exactly.
Down an environment or sending an alert to a group of people or resetting a password on a database or whatever. Any random thing can be done now triggered.
Yeah, and it's important to note that our customers are using Flow in the broader context with other tools, and our plugin architecture and integration platform is incredibly powerful. And we've had native integrations with, tools like Jenkins and ServiceNow and all this Jira and, all the tools that you really know and love, we've been working with, and has been part of the ecosystem, and Jenkins, we've been able to trigger off Jenkins and other tools like that for a while. But they've always been, a little bit more turnkey, that we have a specific Jenkins plugin and that sort of thing. So this is a broader approach. Again, it's that sort of same thing of jumping up, taking a concept that we've been doing for a while and doing well, and just taking it to the next level.
Making it more approachable, making it easier for people to use the power of this unified platform.
Yeah, so we should be able to take a look at this real quick if we
put on your propeller hats or not necessarily.
So if we jump in here, and I think Raj can do this. We'll jump over to one of the pipelines that we have here, which is a CI/CD. Nope, not that one. It's this guy, this backend pipeline for this project that we've got defined in GitHub. And this is an example of how we'd use the trigger in a real straightforward way. So we've got a CI/CD pipeline here. And when I click on the little run pipeline, now what you'll get is a number of different options. We used to have the, okay, I want to run this right now. We can schedule it, which we've had for a while. But the new thing now is trigger. So we've got it set up to trigger off of a Git webhook, and pulling that from Git. So I'll show you the setup over here. So this is just a simple project in GitHub, and all I need to do as a developer, I'm in my code here working on stuff, and I want to make a change to something in our code base. Change that description of this thing here, and make our commit up to GitHub. And now once we make that that commit, GitHub is going to generate a trigger which is going to proactively trigger this pipeline. So if I go to the pipeline runs here, you'll see that we just triggered a pipeline run of this backend CI/CD build. So this is an example. GitHub is triggering our pipeline, and then we're using our plugins to go off and query Jira, update our Jira tickets. We're triggering a Jenkins build. So if we jump over here, we can see we've got our Jenkins build fired off there. I can tell which one it is, but so our Jenkins build is run, and then we're going through the whole pipeline, deploying everything. But this is just one example of using the webhook trigger to trigger something like a CI/CD pipeline. Again, it could be a release that is triggered off of some event that happens, some external event, not necessarily a continuous delivery task. It could be something that triggers an environment that gets spun up. So super flexible and super easy to set up, and it's all secure and ready to go. So I think this is going to be we're really excited to roll this out for our customers that are looking for ways to just make things more efficient and connect more of the pieces.
And so I just noticed that there's a little hand that popped up. That means it's waiting for an approval. Is that the deal?
That's right. There's our approval, and that's a release manager. So if I jump back over to MyWork, I'm going to see another task for me to get done before this webinar is over.
Nice. Waiting.
So I can actually approve that here.
Do it, man. Let's do it. Let's get it out there. Don't have any anxiety. We've got you. We've got you.
So there we go. That guy
Awesome.
is approved. I can jump back in here and see this thing continue. So, so that is the that's the triggers, and I think it's going to be a real powerful tool for folks to use.
Fantastic. All right, what's next?
So I think next up is oh, there's a little bit of the setup. Very easy to set up a trigger for GitHub and some other basic tools. So the other one is SSO, and again, this is another one of those features that's been there, but that we're making easier to use, and we're using a Kerberos the approach, which is compatible with Active Directory. So being able to jump into the platform without having to log in every time, even though you can leave windows open, but once you've logged in and you're just going about your work through the day, again, it's about getting quick access to what you need to get done. So a great example is if you get a notification in Slack, or a flow pipeline generates an email notification or something like that for you. Clicking right on that link and just jumping right into the tool without having to log in, it's just gets you there that much faster. And again, it's saving time, but it's also just getting rid of having to think about other little things and just getting you to where you need to go as fast as possible. So I think, let's see. Oh, I need to swipe the other way here. Let's see if, yeah, there we go. Okay, so if we take a look at this as a window that we're signed out of here, and
before you go on, Hans, I want to ask a question. So there's lots of different ways to do this. You mentioned Kerberos, there's SAML. There's also like URL sort of passing that people have tried, which I don't think it's as secure. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the single sign-on is all secure SSL. I mean, the web, we've got this little HTTPS arrow thing. This site is not secure, but this site is. So that's good. But the SSO itself is totally secure. Yeah. So that.
Yeah. And it's much better than sort of any shenanigans around trying to just pass in credentials via a URL or something. Very right.
Yeah, the credentials are pulled directly from the Kerberos server, or your Active Directory server on the back end. Okay, so here I could sign in with my username on this machine. I'm on my work laptop, so I'm signed in with my domain account, and this is set up so I can just click on single sign-on and it's going to pop me right in there. Okay, so here I'm in, I've logged in, right? Okay, that's great. I go about my work, whatever. I'm going to open up a separate window and close this. So now I'm out, right? Let's say, here we go. I've got a Slack window here. Okay, great. I've got, somebody sent me a link, to go check out this release, right? Or, maybe a tool generated, in a failure or something like that, you get notifications to go take action on stuff, right? So these are all notifications, that are coming through ElectricFlow. And this is an example of one. Oh, it went to the wrong place. Let me pull that over here. But so just by jumping directly to that link, since I was already logged on, I didn't have to log in again, and I didn't even have to click, log in through SSO. I'm already in, so I just jump right in there. So that's great. I just get directly to where I need to go. So that's just a real simple example of how that can work. But again, this is the kind of thing that's like throughout the day, it's all the little things that pile up, right? Maybe that's what the theme of this release is like getting rid of all the little pebbles that pile up, right? And that's just another one,
all the
how long does it take for me to log in and get in there? So boom, I just jump right in and I can get access to, running pipeline, a release, whatever, and get my work done.
Right on. Get rid of the friction.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's SSO. I think in some ways we might have saved, I don't know if it's the best for last, but it's pretty cool stuff as well.
It's pretty cool. So yeah, so when you're doing it, when you're releasing software and you're releasing version 3 and you just released version 2, however long ago, there is value in understanding, the past. Those who don't understand the past are doomed to repeat it. So being able to use that data, and we have our DevOps Insight component, which collects data automatically from all the tools that are in your tool chain that are being orchestrated as part of an ElectricFlow pipeline or release, orchestrated release. So collecting all that information is great. We're running the Foresight, our ML processes that we run across that to help give you sort of a risk score based on previous things that have happened. That's all very interesting. But sometimes you want to go back and take a look and say, well, 2 or 3 weeks before I did my last release, where was I from a completion perspective? How was I trending before versus how am I trending now? And what does that mean for the next 3 weeks before my big release? And so the ability to really go back and take a look at that data as it was at a certain point in time is something that our customers have really asked for, because they want to be able to use that data to help them project forward on the whether or not they're going to be able to get this release out, and if they need to maybe be investing more in some part of the process. Maybe they're going to realize that last time we were in exactly the same place as we were now 3 weeks prior to launch or to release, and we didn't make it because we had a problem with the number of QA servers. So what I'm going to do proactively is I'm going to add more QA servers, and it might cost us a little more money, but I'd rather spend that money than miss the opportunity of hitting our release window or whatever it is that you're trying to hit, because you've got to launch, right? The business demands that. Yeah. So super powerful functionality for people who really are trying to make these, use data to help them to grind down that unit cost, to grind down the risk, to increase that efficiency for these releases. Again, if you ignore the past, you're doomed to repeat it.
Right. And this is another example of something that's been in the product for a while. That still there's not any. There's no other feature like the release command center in terms of being able to synthesize and federate. And again, that's the value of the unified platform that's pulling all the data from all the different things that are happening as part of the overall DevOps process and software delivery and orchestration processes, all the different tools, and federating that into one place. The release command center is exposing that in a way that is truly showing the value stream broken down into the key sort of phases of value delivery, from planning and defining stories and tracking defects and builds and all that. And And so that's been, again, it's been there, right? And the value is tremendous to be able to have that kind of visibility. But now the being able to go back in time and see how stuff is trending over time just makes answering that question, hey, how is our release doing? Are we good to go for next week? That much easier, because that is not a very simple, question to answer. There's so many aspects to trying to figure out, going to all the different tools and inspecting all the different data sources and, looking into all the Jira stories and going and looking at, builds and all that stuff and bringing it together into one place. And looking at the trending is just incredible. So
it's pretty incredible. And the fact that it does it per that release. So if you have 5 different user stories that you've said, this is going to make up, next week's release is these 5 stories. Being able to say these stories are now at 50% dev complete, and the testing is at this percent.
Right.
How much more do we have here, Hans? Because we do
this
have.
Is it. Yeah, I think this is the last piece. So.
Okay, because we have a couple questions, so perhaps we can maybe dive into those.
We can. One question is, I did just want to bring this up real quick and just show folks one piece of it, and I'll answer the question up there because it's an easy answer. It's just yes. But the other piece here is that the release command center is it is pulling data from all the different sources, and we've also made it a lot easier to set up where the data sources are being pulled from. So we've got this nice new UI for specifying what all the different target tools are for all those different stages, and that's going to be in alignment with your your pipeline or your releases as well. But this just makes it a lot easier to specify, as well as supporting multiple tools for things like test automation. You probably have more than one test automation tool.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So it's all there, and being able to go back in time and seeing how stuff is trending in the past is really, really powerful.
Super helpful. Awesome. All right, so we've got a bunch of questions already, which is great. So I'm going to put the first one out there, and hopefully you can sort it for us. John asks, does the triggers that we have work with BitBucket?
It works with BitBucket, yes, and again, it's going to work with any tool like BitBucket that supports API, the REST calls using the webhook approach, and there's sort of a standard way for setting that stuff up. Essentially, the way it works is on the ElectricFlow side, you essentially create a trigger, assign some security credentials and some, a passkey and stuff like that, and you get a webhook URL that you just go paste in the tool that you want to use to create the trigger. So BitBucket definitely supports that. I'd imagine that most of the tools, a lot of the tools that folks are using today, especially ones that are SaaS based, are going to support webhooks.
Awesome. Okay. Paula asked what my favorite question: do you have a free version I can download and play with?
Of course we do, right?
Right.
Yeah. This is good stuff, and our free version has been updated to 9.0, so it has all these goodies in there for folks to check out. The tutorials that come out that are part of the community edition, that's the free download, have also been updated as well. So you can use the tutorials to walk through some of this stuff and understand the value a little bit more easily.
Awesome. Okay. Persona asks, I am an old Commander customer, and for those of you who don't know, Electric Commander is the orchestration sort of unified platform underneath ElectricFlow. I'm an older Commander customer. How can I upgrade to this version? Is it possible to upgrade to this person? I think probably need.
It is possible to upgrade. Yes. There are no gotchas that I'm aware of. This release is a major release, so it's a 9.0 release, which means it's a long-term support release. So the upgrade path for our long-term support releases is going to be, we're going to always make sure that that's easier as well. But there's no reason why a Commander customer wouldn't be able to upgrade to 9.0. And awesome. Commander is the engine that is running a lot of the good stuff that we see in ElectricFlow. So it's there.
Yeah, I mean, and for those of you who are listening, most of the chips that are being manufactured for Android are all the companies that are creating those chips are all using our software. They're doing hundreds of thousands of builds and commit pipelines using our products. So super scalable. And that leads me to my next question. Joe asked, I saw you work with Jenkins. Do you work with other build tools as well? So I'm wondering maybe what build tools you might be talking about, but things like I don't know.
TFS, Travis, all the main CI build tools out there. We either have a plugin or native integration with. Most of them are bi-directional, and that's one of the important things is, especially with CI tools, something like Jenkins, oftentimes Jenkins is sort of the first step in the process, and so you need to be able to support both directions of triggers, getting the trigger from Jenkins or calling out a build or doing something on Jenkins or other CI tools or build tools like that. So Azure DevOps, if there's stuff that you're doing, we can support all of that.
Excellent. Okay. Question here from Vidya. Do you work with cloud providers like Google, Amazon, ...
We do. So all the stuff that we're looking at in terms of releasing software, eventually that software has got to go somewhere.
Yeah.
So, our customers are all, recognizing cloud native and moving to the cloud as a big piece of their transformation, and that has to happen in tandem with how they're supporting their legacy stuff. Some folks still have mainframe, but they're wanting to play around with Kubernetes or Docker or start to multiple clouds for different reasons. So we support all of the all of the major public clouds: AWS, Google, Azure, even OpenStack, and some of the other ones that were hotter a couple years ago. In terms of being able to be targets for where you are releasing that software to, and and that's always been one of the values that we've held, is being able to use the model-based approach that's core to the architecture and the way that the product is built, to be able to support the different architectures around a cloud and containers, alongside the more traditional stuff. Your traditional artifacts alongside container images and managing those pieces together so that you can get control of teams that are going at light speed and folks that aren't going quite as fast but want to learn to go fast.
You get there, right? Exactly. And I think that's super critical, that whole idea of that abstraction that the models that we have in the product provide for people. One of the reasons why we're focusing so heavily on simplifying the user experience is because those abstractions, I will just be honest, it makes things more complicated in the beginning. When you abstract things away, you have to find the similarities, and you're up-leveling so that you have future agility. And what making this product easier for people to get their arms around up front will get them onboarded and using the power of the platform, which that modeling that you just talked about is so powerful because it gives you the flexibility of saying, yeah, I want to run this pipeline, but instead of going to Google, I want to go to Amazon, or instead of going there, I want to go to in-house or whatever. Or this release now, instead of having 8 components in it from 5 different teams, it's going to have 9 components from 6 different teams. And I don't have to redo everything. I just added something into a train, and now I'm ready to go. So there's a lot of power in that, and this release is really all about servicing that power to people in a way that is easier for them to digest.
Yeah.
We have a little bit more time for a few more questions. We got a couple more questions already. If you have a question, ask it now.
I see one there about API calls. Again, maybe back to the triggers. This is from Landon, who is asking if he uses API calls and scripts to kick off pipelines. Does the trigger feature replace that? And that the answer is no. So that's good to clarify that it's not it's not replacing anything that that folks may already be doing in terms of how they're triggering things in Flow today or triggering other tools. This is this is just another piece in your tool house to better integrate with the tools that are part of your overall process.
Okay, very good. We got another question from Carla. You mentioned ACLs on all of your objects. Is this enforced in your reporting engine as well? I don't want people seeing data they shouldn't see. It's a great question.
That is a great question. In the dashboards, you can control who sees what. In the actual data, I actually don't know the answer to that question.
I do, and we do, yeah. So you're limited. The object, the ACLs it's basically the same object model in our reporting engine as in the ElectricFlow state and orchestration engine itself. We chose to keep the same data model because then we didn't want to have to deal with the ETL. But we actually chose to have a separate server because we didn't want to have our online sort of instant transaction processing be using the same CPU and memory as our reporting, right? That's a no-no to have your reporting server live on your orchestration engine, because every time you're running a report, so show me all, star, all of a sudden now all the jobs that are supposed to be running, again, I was talking about the hundreds of thousands of jobs that get run, you don't want those being impacted. If you've got a 2-hour maintenance window, you don't want somebody running a report and messing with your timing on that, right?
Exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah, and so the ACLs will control the level of access that you have to whatever data you're wanting to run reports on, or viewing whatever orchestration tasks have been happening. Your ACLs are going to control what you have visibility into.
Awesome. So there are a few other questions there. Sorry we didn't get to them. We are at the top of the hour. If your question wasn't answered, we will reach out to you with an answer. thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much to Hans for taking the time. The demo was great. And for all of you for joining, we look forward to seeing you guys on the next release of ElectricFlow.
Thank you, Sam. It's always a pleasure. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.